1, 2, 3. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Life Podcast, your go-to podcast for all things entrepreneurship, accounting, and lifestyle. I'm Katey Maddux, and today I have with me Coach Tiffany Taylor. Tiffany Taylor is a global speaker, master business coach, and mentor for high-performance business leaders. She helps founders and CEOs collapse their financial trajectory by becoming so effective that they never have to use a to-do list again. She helps clients reclaim up to 40 hours of their week so they can refocus on building credibility and their authority online by becoming the main character of their business brand. So awesome. I'm so excited you're here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Why don't you tell the people who you are, where you come from, all the things.
Hello, everyone. I'm Coach Tiffany Taylor. I'm originally from Fort Lauderdale, but I've been in Miami on and off for the last 7 years.
Awesome. And what's your background? What do you do?
So I'm a business coach. I work a lot with mindset with entrepreneurs, a lot with productivity, and then I also do the branding side of things as well. But for today, we're just going to be talking about the coaching side and what it takes to have a high performance mindset and mentality and how to really master your time.
And you have so many cool stories. I know you started your business overseas. We're both big travelers. You've been to 32 countries?
36, yeah.
36, excuse me. Yeah. So why don't you tell them a little bit about, I think the story of even how you started your business is such a cool story, and it's just so intriguing. And did you go to school? Well, I know the answer, right? But tell them about, if you went to school, whatever, and how you got to ending up starting your business.
Yeah, so I did start my business in Thailand, and I wasn't planning to live there. This started in 2019. I had a really bad burnout experience. I was in corporate. I went 5 years without taking a vacation. Do not recommend that. Do not recommend that. And then by the time I did take that first vacation, I was in the hospital twice. I actually found out I did take a picture at the hospital at that time, but I was in the hospital twice, and the stress had just completely shut my body down. Yeah. So I decided to quit my job in corporate with no plan whatsoever. I left Miami, and something in my gut was just telling me, you need to go to Thailand again, which is crazy. I'd already been there. I was like, the other side of the world, God, really? Again? Here we go. So I just listened. I was obedient. I booked a one-way flight to Thailand in December 2019, and then we found out about COVID in January 2020. It was a series of events that led up to starting my business. So in January 2020, I snapped my meniscus in my knee while kickboxing, so I couldn't kickbox anymore. In March of 2020, I was in a really bad motorcycle accident where I was thrown off the motorcycle, broke my shoulder. Yeah, in Thailand, of all places. Wasn't great. And then 2 weeks later, the border shut, so I was going to stay in Thailand. So it went from I'm going on some 1 month fun vacation to I'm just going to live here now. And the world is going to chaos. And I'm not going to find a job online. Everyone's out of a job now because of COVID. I have nowhere to go, and I'm not going to work in Thailand. I mean, the pay just wouldn't make sense.
So that you can make $7 an hour?
Yeah, not even. There's not even a minimum wage. It would be $10 a day is what you just go for if I could legally work there. I'd always wanted to be a coach and be a business owner. Yeah. I never had the time, funny enough. Yeah. So what happened is...
And now you have all the time.
I have all the time in the world. And I had social media, which is amazing. So I started my business from there. I got my coaching certifications while in Thailand. And then thanks to Instagram, I started posting about, I'm a coach now. I want to help you. This is what I've done with my life. I want to help you do it too. And my whole business grew thanks to Instagram and building a brand on there.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And what exactly, I feel like everybody's a coach these days, right? On TikTok, everybody's a coach. What is your niche within kind of the coaching world, and I want to tell them a little bit about your masters and just what your background is, because I feel like there's so many people right now who are I'm a coach, but they have very little experience and education in the coaching world, but that's not your story.
No, coaching is something I take very seriously. When I was younger, I really looked up to Tony Robbins, for example, and he built his coaching business based on something called NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. This is where linguistics meets the neurology of your body and your brain. So when you can pair those two together, that's the point where you can start rewiring your mind. In coaching, there's kind of two ways to do coaching. You can do conversational coaching, which is directly speaking to the conscious mind. This would be like talk therapy. Or you can do subconscious coaching, which is where you're speaking directly to the subconscious mind. You can do that through highly skilled conversational patterns like conversational hypnosis, or you can do that through hypnosis itself. I think a lot of people in coaching, since it's unregulated, tend to use life experience or a lot of reading, for example, or athletics to go into coaching. I don't. I go straight to linguistics and go to the subconscious mind.
Interesting. So what does that look like for you? Like going into the subconscious mind, like in a session, what does that look like for a business owner, and why do they need that?
So I look at symptoms. I think everyone's aware of what the symptoms of their behavior are and where the problems are.
Yeah.
But there's not so much clarity where that comes from. Like, why do I do these things? What is the root cause? And we say, for example, I just want to stop procrastinating.
Right.
Without the awareness of where it starts. And so you can, put a Band-Aid on it. You can just go on something like Focus Mate and get accountability to show up on time. But then that behavior will switch to something else like self-sabotage, right? It's just going to keep switching because you didn't get to the root of it. When you do something like NLP, you're getting to the root cause, which could be something completely random, like something that happened to you when you're 7. What's amazing about the subconscious mind is that like 90 to 95% of what you do every single day comes from the subconscious. All of your memories are stored there. All of your systems and processes for how you experience the world are stored there as well. Your whole reality, the sense you make of all the information you take in from all 5 senses, it comes from the subconscious. So it only makes sense to do the work there.
Wow. So and you can go as deep or as not deep into this as you want. In terms of how has the work that you've done affected maybe your own childhood, like the patterns that you developed as a child? How has that changed, or how have you been able to use even what you teach other people? Have you been able to do that to yourself?
Absolutely. Actually, I love this question. Yes, that's why I'm so passionate about this. So I've been more and more vocal recently about the story, the background that it came from. I like to talk about the mind. It's kind of it's a structure. It's a house.
Okay.
It has a foundation. It has the support beams. It has the regular beams, and it has drywall covering things. So you can't exactly see where the beams are. And we don't get to choose how it's built because it's built by age 7. Our blueprint for how we're going to experience the world and make decisions is pretty set in stone by age 7.
Wow.
Every story we have about money, set in by age 7. Every story we have about relationships and how those work, it's set in by age 7.
Wow.
So all the decisions and all the experiences you had until age 7, unless you've gone and done the work to rewire things, that is your life story that's playing out right now, whether you're 30 years old, 80 years old, anywhere in between. That's what it looks like. So the reason I'm so passionate about this kind of work is I wasn't so fortunate from 0 to age 7. I have a lot of trauma in my background. I have ADHD. I have OCD. I had panic attack disorder. Wow. I had trichotillomania. I had generalized anxiety disorder.
I don't even know what half those things are.
Right. Right. Not good. ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder.
Right.
What a lot of people don't know, I know it's trending to talk about it now, is ADHD actually develops from having a volatile childhood. If it develops in childhood.
Interesting.
Because your mind is constantly pulling you out of where you are as a form of protection. It's trying to get you out of that place. OCD is also coming from trauma of the sense of, if I can just control these things, I'll feel safe. Trichotillomania is a form of OCD. It's hair pulling. It's the same thing. It's a compulsion to pull hair out of a sense of, at least I have control over this one thing. Anxiety, I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
Panic attack disorder, I'm sure you know.
Right.
Yeah. So trying to function with all of these different disorders was mission impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, add on PTSD, it's not, you don't have the best deck of cards stacked for you. And I was aware of that, but I was also aware that that wasn't going to define me. I wasn't going to be a victim of those things. I wasn't just going to cope with those things or just say, this is the way it is. I was going to find a way to overcome those things, and I was going to be the victor in my story.
I love that.
And that's how I found NLP. Because NLP can rewire all of those things.
Wow. You have me just, my wheels are turning as you're talking. So how old were you when you came to the realization, my childhood was traumatic? I think so many people, we think oh, well, there was no sexual abuse when I was little. There was no big divorce there was no big traumatic event. Therefore, I can't really justify calling my life traumatic. Mm-hmm. But I think so much of our trauma, we don't label it traumatic. And so we don't give ourselves the space to heal from it, or we don't give ourselves the reason to be like, actually, maybe I should dig into this, or I should get help for this, because we're like, it wasn't that traumatic. Like, yeah, this happened and that happened, but it wasn't that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. And so we don't label it traumatic, and then we don't create the space for it because we didn't label it traumatic. Mm-hmm. And so like, where do you work with people who, one, don't really see it? Like, hey, I didn't really have this, but you're like, clearly you did, because you have all these habits, right? And now, as someone who's worked through my own trauma, now I can see it in other people. I'm like, you don't think you're traumatized, but I can tell by your habits that you had a traumatic childhood. But going back to my question, like, how old were you when you realized, like, oh, this is something I actually need to deal with? And how long did it take you to process through that and kind of rewire?
The thing is, for me, it wasn't an acute event that happened. It was years of consistent abuse, like from age 2 to 14. And it was just consistent. So it was bad from the beginning. Uh-huh. And I knew at the time I'd had to be working through it and see the light at the end of it. And I knew it would take years to overcome things. So it wasn't until I wasn't allowed to have emotion, for example. No emotion.
I can relate.
Was not allowed to speak. If I was smiling, if I was sad, if I was crying, there was a punishment. Yeah, there were repercussions for having any sort of emotion. So it wasn't until I was 15 that I started learning what emotions were and why they're important and how to feel them and how to express them. And when you start reintroducing emotions at that age, the little bit of happiness is like up here, and like the little bit of sadness is like way down there, and you have to learn to regulate. So that was my start. It's like regulating the emotions. Mm-hmm. But interesting that you mentioned with the trauma. I don't think you have to recognize it as trauma or even label it that to recognize that there was a significant emotional event that happened. Okay. So with NLP, we call it SEE, significant emotional event. Okay. It could be the divorce. Yeah. It could be the time that you got on stage to run for student council and you forgot what you were saying. It could be that thing. Okay. And what makes it even trickier is you might not remember that thing because your subconscious loves you so much.
Dissociated.
Your subconscious loves you so much. It's going to hide that memory from you. It's going to repress that memory. Yeah. And it's going to hold on to it. It's going to hide it from you. But it's going to forever protect you and make sure that never happens to you again. So you might only know that you have a fear of public speaking. And you might not even remember what happened back when you were age 10. Wow. With NLP, I have a technique called time technique. And this is one of my favorite techniques to use with clients. So I can do a little exercise if you'd like.
I'm nervous.
And the audience can do it along with us because it's important to know. Okay. So the subconscious organizes your memories. Okay. So for example, if you just close your eyes, I want you to think about something that happened in the past. It was a past memory.
Good or bad?
It could be either way. Just think about something that happened a month ago or 2 years ago. Think about maybe your happiest memory and just notice where it comes from. Maybe it's coming from the left, above you, in front of you, behind you. Where is the memory coming from?
Am I supposed to answer that question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's in front of me.
Okay, so the memory is coming forward from you. Okay, think about a memory from like 10 years ago. Pull that picture up. Where is it coming from?
I feel like the back.
Behind you. Uh-huh. Okay. Think about something that you know is going to happen, like that trip coming up. Or think about an event you just know is going to happen in your life, that future memory that hasn't happened yet. Where is that coming from?
Forward.
Forward. Perfect. Notice those two imply a line.
Okay.
Okay, so open your eyes. So that's your timeline.
Okay.
And anyone watching will notice everyone has a different timeline. Mm-hmm. Some people have it from left to right. Some people have it from behind them to in front of them. Some people, it's kind of like a slanted line, and whichever way it looks, it's perfect for them, so long as it works. And what's cool about that too is some people have the line going through them, and some people have the line in front of them, below them, or to the side of them.
I feel like mine was going through me.
Yeah, so you're an in-time person, which means you get to experience the present moment, where some people really struggle with that. They're like very organized. They're never in the moment quite. They're only watching it happen. Interesting. It's the way the subconscious is organized in your mind. Okay. And so all of the events of your life are stored on that line into little gestalts, which are just pockets of memories. And that's where your significant emotional events will be held as well. It'll be held somewhere on that line. And so with a time technique, for example, we can travel over that time and switch around memories, apply different learnings, and tweak it to something where there's no roadblocks behind you anymore. Any decisions you made, you've heard of limiting beliefs?
Yeah.
Those come from limiting decisions. Limiting decisions can be completely released from your timeline.
And your subconscious removed them.
Your subconscious will say, oh, I got the lesson I was meant to learn here. I no longer need to make the decisions the same way. And it will completely release it. And that's a permanent release. Anything you do with the subconscious, once it stretches or learns a lesson, it can't go backwards. It now is expanded and it's permanent.
Interesting. So when you do these exercises with people, what is like the goal? Like, okay, so we had, all of these things, like this is the learning and whatever. Now, like, what's the next step? Like, what do they do with that information?
So there's a lot of different reasons we would use something like time techniques. You can use it for limiting decisions that would precede the limiting beliefs. You could also use it for emotional release. So, for example, if you were to do a full day of coaching, I do VIP days. One of the first things we'll do after the interview is just release emotions. Like the 5 core emotions, we'll release anger, or release sadness, release guilt, shame, and fear. Or release everything at once. And it seems easy because I know I did therapy for like 14 years and it's a lot of talking through things. Mm-hmm. What I love about this technique is you don't have to even remember what happened.
Revisit all of it.
Right. You don't have to revisit all of it. You don't even have to talk about it. And your subconscious can actually release those emotions without having to show you and reveal what caused them. So there's a protection for trauma work as well there, which is beautiful. So for emotions, for example, if someone's always frustrated, always in a rush, or just every little thing bothers them, something like an emotional release, just releasing anger and sadness, all of a sudden they just feel clear-minded.
Interesting.
It's just they experience life in a different way every day. Mm-hmm. Releasing guilt from someone or fear from someone or anxiety, it's their everyday experience is different. Mm-hmm. And as you know, as an entrepreneur, when you are at your best and you're feeling clear-minded, you're performing at your best. You're making your best decisions.
Healthy you, healthy business. That's what we say.
Exactly. And emotional
healthy
health.
you, healthy business.
Exactly right.
Interesting. So your clients are typically entrepreneurs, or they are like W-2 employees who just want to get better as humans?
All entrepreneurs.
And how would you say is like, so after they release the emotions and they do the inner work, like what's kind of the effect on their business? What's their ROI per se on not just emotional intelligence, but like financial ROI?
Without those blocks, I mean, I've had clients go from just starting 0 to 10K a month consistently within 60 days. I've had clients go from 0 to 60K a month in 6 to 7 months.
Wow.
So, I mean, the ROI is pretty unlimited. I guess the question would be, what would your life look like if you no longer were nothing ever distracted you? If you slept perfectly every single night? If you've never procrastinated a day in your life again? What would your business look like if you never doubted yourself once and you went full faith on every decision you made? Mm-hmm. Or if you trusted your intuition more? That would be the ROI, because there will be truly nothing stopping you. And you might not know what's stopping you.
Right.
You might just know there's something that just can't. What would it look like if that wasn't there anymore?
Wow.
That's the ROI.
That's just like, again, you just have like my wheels turning, I love what you said about like having the opportunity, I should say, having the opportunity to process through feelings or trauma without revisiting them. And that's happened to me through a different process. But I remember there was a season last year where I felt like God was kind of taking me through a healing. And I never had to say it out loud. And to be honest, I don't really even know exactly what was happening. It's just like I wasn't healed, something happened, and then I was healed, Mm-hmm. And I never had to revisit the memory. I just knew that he had taken it out, and that there had been a healing happening. And it was strange because I was like, why do I feel healed when I don't even know what I'm healed from? Like, why do I feel recovered when I don't even know what I'm being recovered from? But I just felt like it was such the kindness of God to be like, you know what, I'm actually going to heal that thing without you having to walk through it again. Right. And so I know that that's possible because I've done it through, other techniques. But I think that's just like such the kindness of God that we can heal from things without having to walk through them again, you know? And that's not always the case. I don't think I've spoken very much about my own trauma on the podcast. We will one day have an episode about it. But that one I did have to kind of walk through and revisit. And so there are times when I think that's important. You know, it's different. It's different for every experience. Some of them we have to revisit, and some of them we're just going to get healing without revisiting it. But I think to even show people like it is possible. Some people I think procrastinate their healing or choose not to step into healing because they're like, that's going to be so painful. And I just don't have the capacity for that kind of pain right now. Especially if you're an entrepreneur wearing all the hats and you're overwhelmed and you're overstressed and you don't have a lot of time. Like, the idea that you're then going to want to take on this huge project of internal healing is like, why would I want to take on that right now, you know? But to know that, no, actually you can have healing and you can find health and you can find all these things without having to do that is going to open doors for people to be like, you know what, maybe I could do that today. Maybe I could do that now and watch it change my business.
There's so many new tools available now that aren't, I mean, there's a line between therapy and coaching. What I love about coaching is how do we take you from today and just focus on the future and just changing that trajectory without having to go back through the past and really walk through it like one step at a time. What I find interesting, why I love working with entrepreneurs as well, is the biggest obstacle, I would say, for them to go into healing is that that's where they get their motivation from. And so they're fine healing. They don't mind investing in it. They don't mind taking the time. But then there's this fear that comes up where if I heal,
but that's the fire under my ass.
What's going to drive me? Exactly. If I heal, I'm not going to want success anymore. I'm not going to have drive like this.
Interesting.
I'm not going to have my motivation. And that's what got me where I am. I don't want to lose that part of me. And to the person who might be feeling that right now, I want you to know that we can rewire motivation as well. I know quite a few of my clients use anger as motivation, for example. They will intentionally create anger in their body to drive them in order to push the business. Consciously. They know they can use it.
Wow.
So they will trigger what they know will create anger. They will find things that frustrate them on a daily basis to create anger in the body to push the business forward. And it works, no doubt.
Healthy, maybe not so much.
Exactly. It hurts the body. It hurts the subconscious. It takes a lot out. It's not the only way. So maybe what you're doing is working for you, but that doesn't mean another way won't. Like, there's other ways to get where you're going, and it's going to be even better for you and maybe even more motivating than the strategy you're currently using.
There's, like the good, better, best philosophy, and it's like, yeah, you can be doing good and you can even be doing great, but you have to walk away from good and great if you want best. And so many people are like, but I'm comfortable in the good. Even myself, I'm comfortable in the good. I'm comfortable doing it by myself because everything's done the way that I want it. But that's not the best for me because I can't scale in good world. And I can't even scale in great world because I have too much control and I don't want to delegate, right? And I don't want to let go of all the things. But to have impact, I need to be in best world. And so to be in best world, I have to let go of good and great world. And sometimes that's just something that it's like, where are you in the good, better, best? And if you're not in best, what can you let go of that maybe helped you in the past? Maybe it helped you get to where you are. I feel like that's a lot of what you're saying, right? Like, what you had helped you get to where you are. And we can acknowledge that and see value in that. Absolutely. And be like, yes, that was great. Anger was good for you for a time. It did help you get to where you are. But in this season, that's not best. That's just good.
Correct. Especially the motivation. This is another pattern I see with a lot of entrepreneurs is the motivation in the beginning is there's two types of motivation. There's towards motivation and then there's the away motivation. Which one is stronger? Away motivation. And the reason is if you put your hand on a hot stove, you're going to move your hand really quick. You're very motivated to get away from it.
Yeah.
Versus if you have ice and you're warm, you're not going to be as motivated or as quickly go reach for the ice, right? And a lot of times entrepreneurs come from a background like we have, and they're running from something. Someone told them something that hurt them or affected them, and they're working to prove themselves right or to prove someone else wrong. That will get you to a point. But there's a maturity process that happens in entrepreneurship where you are already so successful and you're doing so well. You've already proved them wrong. And now you hit a new comfort zone. And you're like, I don't want to stop, but I don't have anything pushing me anymore.
Yeah.
What do I do? And so it's better to proactively seek out that pull motivation, that towards motivation, or else you get stuck in the middle of that thing I was running from is so far away, it doesn't really affect me anymore.
Wow.
And that's another really big value of doing the healing work earlier on, because now you're proactively seeking out that towards motivation, that things that's pulling you forward, that way you're not running anymore.
I love that. The not running anymore, because the not running anymore, it's not just like doing, it's affecting your physical body, right? Even if you're just mentally or emotionally running, it's running you down.
Absolutely.
Right? It's how it's contributing to burnout, it's contributing to fatigue, it's contributing to stress and exhaustion. Whereas do you feel like a pull motivation, for example, like what is that doing for you physically? Like it's better for your physical body, don't you agree?
Absolutely. And how we do one thing is how we do most things. You know, I like looking at physical fitness for this. Are you waking up in the morning to an alarm clock and pushing yourself to go do whatever it is you're doing? You're running from something. You're pushing. If you wake up same time every day before your alarm and you're just so grateful and excited, you're like, wow, I get to work again today. I get another day today. I'm so excited about this. That's towards motivation. And you know it because it physically feels better.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone watching this right now has had an experience of both of those things.
Yeah.
Even if the waking up day was on a Saturday, right? You know how that feels. And that is the best analogy I can give you of what it feels like to make that switch, right? And go to the towards motivation rather than away.
Yeah. Again, you have just like my wheels turning about like, oh yeah, I remember, you know, and it's like, I'm so exhausted, but my alarm's going off. So I'm going to push myself to go to the gym, not realizing that I had an autoimmune stirring in my body, but it was like, but I want to lose weight, but I want to be fit, but I want to do A, B, and C. And so I'm going to like push myself to get up and work out because I want to be thin, I want to be fit, and I want to be this. But now where it's like I'm coming out of that season, I'm like, no, I'm getting up and working out because it's like good for my body, not because I'm trying to lose the weight or, you know what I mean?
And that's what love is, isn't it?
Such a different mindset.
That's what love is. I've had a conversation like this not long ago. It's like, love. How do you love? How you love your body is how you love others. Are you loving it in the way that you want to take care of it and nourish it and for it to be healthy? Or are you loving it in the way of, I just want to make sure it looks good?
Yeah.
Right? Two very different things.
And the making it look good is oftentimes not a love, it's a hate, right? I struggled with an eating disorder growing up, and it was a hating of my body. And so I was doing the right things, but for the wrong motivation. And so instead of my body cooperating with me, right, it was just getting more and more drained and more fatigued until it became sick. And it's like you can do the right thing, but if you're not doing it out of the right motivation or the right heart, and you can apply this to
Bingo.
Literally anything.
Exactly what I'm saying
Anything.
In business. Exact
you can
same
apply
thing in
it
business.
to faith, business, or taxes. Like, did you go to that meal for the purpose of getting business, or did you go to that meal with your boyfriend or girlfriend and you're trying to make a tax deduction out of it? Like, it's not what you did. It's the heart posture in which you did it in, you know? And it can apply to your subconscious, your conscious, but your subconscious will read right through that. If you tell yourself you're doing it for one reason and you're doing it for a different reason, you can't lie to your subconscious mind.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly right.
I've learned so much just from this conversation. That's what I love about the podcast is I'm like, they get content and they get, you know, learning, but I learned so much from these interviews and just like these conversations. They bring me so much joy, like just hearing, you know, what people do. And there's so many things that we can learn from the people that are just like in their mind. And like, you're even a friend of mine. I didn't even know half the stuff, you know, like there's people even in your own circle that you probably don't even know all of the things that are in their mind and all of the things that they've studied and the experiences they have. Like a lot of my guests have been people in my inner circle. And I'm learning on the podcast things about them that I never knew, you know, and skill sets that I never knew that they had. And I'm like, wow, you're one of my best friends. I never knew that.
I love it. Right.
So what would you say to somebody who's like, okay, I see that I probably have an opportunity to improve in this area, but like, is this like therapy where you go every week and it's once a month? Is this like something that you do for a month, or is it a one-time thing, or is it a 6-month thing? Like, what is this? Is it is what you do called NLT coaching or like
NLP?
NLP, I'm sorry.
Yeah. NLP coaching.
NLP coaching. And what does that look like from like a timeline?
So it's different for everyone,
Okay.
right? this is what I love about coaching is it is so bespoke and custom tailor fit to the person. This is why I do free consults, and I will always do free consults, because I need to get an idea of what the situation is.
Yeah.
And I don't get that idea by even asking the questions, or it's not from asking the questions that I get an idea. It's what I mentioned before, linguistic patterns. Through having a conversation with someone 30 to 45 minutes, I can map out what's happening in their subconscious and build a strategy for how to overcome that. Wow. That might be 1 or 2 sessions. That might be the consult that we just get over it right then and there. Maybe you only need 45 minutes. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Then good. That's your gift. Maybe you need a few months to overwork some things. It depends what the challenge is, and I will look for the closest and the straightest path to overcoming that. So it's different for everyone.
And just out of curiosity, is there like a baseline, like prices start here, or it literally, like, I think oftentimes when we hear about coaching, we're like, oh, it's probably like $100,000, or oh, it's probably like $50,000. And it's like, we don't even reach out because it feels like it would just be so out of the price range that we don't even go for it or have the consultation. Yep. Do you have like a baseline or like a minimum or like ranges? So
this is the thing about coaching as well. I think it's very common in the coaching industry to not talk about prices.
Yeah.
And we're just going to keep it secret.
Yeah.
I have my prices on my website.
Okay.
It's even for everyone.
Amazing.
So it's $5,000 a month at the time of recording, and I have VIP days as well. Those are usually $7,500.
And that's for one day,
day,
one long day.
One full
What's
day,
that, like
and
8 hours?
30 days. Yeah, like usually 6 to 8 hours. It depends how long things take. It's not. I'm not a lawyer. I don't charge by the minute. You know what I'm saying? And same thing with like at the $5,000 a month. Like, yes, you get a certain amount of sessions, but I'm very much like a giver, and like I come from a serving mentality. So that's the price where it's like, if you want to ask me questions or send me long voice notes or like add in an extra session here or there, it's like it's one price, and whatever it takes to get you the result, you're not paying for my time. You're paying for the result, and I will do whatever it takes to get you the result that you're coming to me for, which I think is how it should be in the coaching industry.
Yeah, I love that, because it's so exactly what you said. Like, nobody wants to talk about pricing, And so I know even for me, I'm like, oh, I want to do leadership coaching, but like planning that into my cash flow is like, well, you have to have the consultation, but then I don't want to have the consultation and then them tell me like $30,000. I'm like, well, I can't do that right now. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I think obviously you have to plan for something like this from a cash flow perspective, but knowing the number, like the coaches that I've worked with that I loved, it was because like even the girl that I'm working with for my book, she's like, here's the price up front. Like, let me know when you're ready. And I'm like, great, I can plan for that. Right. Like I scheduled it into my year. I scheduled it into my P&L, I can plan for that because I know ahead of time what it's going to cost. And I feel like that gives me permission to be like, okay, how can I make it work? Because I know that I need it. Like, I will not finish my book without a book coach. Like, I wrote the first half of the book, and she even told me, she was like, Katey, a lot of people drop off at 20,000 words because it's like, you can write, but to finish a book, it's different. You need to have a through line, and you need to take all the concepts and make sure that it's different from just writing for the sake of writing.
Absolutely.
And even like what you were saying about like the cover and all these things that I don't know what I don't know. I don't have time to research it. Who wants to spend the time researching it anyway when you can just hire a coach? Coaching will make everything faster.
That's the point. It's a luxury. Coaching's never a necessity. It's always a luxury. It's always collapsing your timeline. What might take someone from someone else. Yeah.
Coaching is collapsing your timeline.
It's collapsing your timeline. Something that might have taken you 1 to 2 years can take you 3 months with a coach. And it's a luxury. It's not a necessity.
And that's a mindset shift for people. Like,
it is. I've invested, just in the mastermind I'm in right now is $25,000.
Yeah. But
I've invested over probably $60,000 or $80,000 in coaching at this point, just in the last year and a half.
Everyone I know that's making 6+ if not 7 figures has coaches.
And
Everyone.
And not just one.
Oh,
You'll
no.
Notice. It's always multiple coaches.
You have a fitness coach, you have a mental coach, you have a health coach, and it's exactly what you said, like, money always comes, but time is limited.
Yeah.
So which one do you want to give up? Give up the money and collapse the time.
I wish people understood that. This is something I'm really passionate about, and why I got into like the productivity coaching side of things as well, is because I knew like we have such a short time. And I knew that. I had an idea of that, but I didn't really know it until I had my motorcycle accident. And something I was on the phone yesterday with a friend, and I was just saying this, like, I wish everyone had a point in time or a moment in their life where they had the realization that today could be my last day.
Yeah.
Because that perspective to look at life through is so healthy. Today could be my last day. Am I proud of the person I am? Did I love people the hardest I could? Am I proud of everything that I've done? Is there anything I wish I would have done differently?
Mm-hmm.
Did I do everything I wish I was able to do? That moment will change you. And that's why I think time is so precious. You're not people live like, oh, I'm going to live till the average of like 75, 85.
You have no idea.
How do you know? What if this is your last year?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, yes, you want to plan for the future. And yes, you want to go for the long goals. But don't lose sight of the short term too, about how you want to feel while you're going towards those things.
And just thinking of like all the things that you could accomplish if you had no limiting beliefs, your subconscious was healthy, you know, you were motivated properly in the right way, and you've healed your inner child, and like the money will come. Money's just a vehicle, you know, like to let money stop you from hiring a coach is a poverty mindset.
Absolutely.
You know, like people who live paycheck to paycheck, that is a poverty mindset, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Just not
Some
serving
people
you.
stay there, and that's okay, but that's not going to get you the high value life if that's what you're looking for. And
Absolutely.
I think that most people who start a business are looking for a high value life, because if you just wanted to live paycheck to paycheck, you would just be a W-2 employee, and you wouldn't be trying to build something for impact, and you wouldn't be trying to start a business and serve others, right? The fact that you took all of the steps that you needed to start this business says that you want more from life.
And to add on to that as well, when it comes to coaching, I think a lot of people say, okay, I can't afford coaching because my goal is to get to this and this is too expensive. And I always encourage people, like, look at your goals. If your goal isn't big enough to make sense of the coaching, straight away, I know that's a sign of self-doubt. Your goal is not big enough to begin with.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I'll tell someone if they get on and say, oh, I can't afford coaching, da-da-da. Well, yes, your goal is to make $10,000 a month. You don't need a coach for that. Maybe your goal should be bigger. Maybe your goal should be $20,000 a month or $30,000 a month. And if that feels uncomfortable for you, then you probably do need a coach.
Then you do need a coach.
Then you need the coach. And then your mind switches. Wait, I'm going to start making $20,000 or $30,000 a month. This makes perfect sense in the pricing.
Right. Yes, 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 yes to all those things. I think it's probably the last like year or two that I've really seen the value in coaching, not only in myself, but in my friends. My friends that are high value, high achievers all have coaches or have done some sort of coaching program, leadership program, Tony Robbins mastermind, pick your poison. Like, who cares who it is? You know what I mean? Obviously make sure they're educated, but like there are so many options,
Right.
Just like get one. It doesn't matter.
It's a path.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it doesn't matter who it is, because it does matter who it is, but,
You'll always be guided, and like, even if you choose the wrong coach, which has happened to me, it will continue guiding you in the right direction.
Or sometimes like the coach that you need at the beginning isn't the coach. I remember when I started even my health journey of trying to figure out this autoimmune, I had a health coach. And what she did, while she didn't diagnose the autoimmune stuff, she didn't get that far because she's not a doctor. But what she did is she got my mindset right. Yeah. And she got me to start paying attention to things like sodium-potassium ratios. What's a sodium-potassium ratio? Like, I didn't even know what that was, you know?
Yeah.
And so even though she wasn't able to diagnose the final problem, she prepared my mindset so that when I finally met the doctor who did solve my problem, I could receive what he had to say because she had already changed the way that I think. And so it's like, maybe she wasn't as expensive as he was, but she was like my first step into health coaching, you know? And I forget what her letters are. Vicky, you're amazing. Victoria Wellness. Omni Wellness is her company if you need help with anything like hormones. Gosh, she did so many things for me. She's like functional medicine essentially, right?
Yes.
And like she taught me so much, and she was my first health coach. And so it's like you can have a variety of coaches, and maybe you can't start out with the $20,000 a month coach, but maybe you could start out with a $3,000 a month coach. You know what I mean? And as long as the coach can get you somewhere that you weren't, that's successful. You know, like maybe they took you from step 1 to step 3, and then you got a different coach, and that coach took you from step 3 to step 5. And then you got, when you're making more money, then you can do the Tony Robbins coaching or whatever, you know, it doesn't have to be Tony Robbins, but like you can start with entry-level coaches. They don't have to be the best coach in the world to get you from step 1 to step whatever it is.
The consults, to say, is where a lot of the value comes in, you know? Like, you're hiring someone. So don't just go with the first person you know, or definitely this is a big mistake I see a lot of people making. Go with the biggest known name they know. Oh, this person has a big name. They have amazing Instagram. They got 1 million followers, or this person's been on TV. Like, watch out. You know what I'm saying? Like, watch out. That doesn't even mean like this is the quality of the work. What matters most to the coach is that they resonate with you and that you have really good rapport and communication with them, because they're gonna be on you. Like, they're gonna coach you. They're not gonna hear. You're not paying them to be your best friend, right? And you need to make sure that you have good rapport with that person. So go and do like 5 consults and see who resonated best with you, because maybe the person who's the most experienced, who's the best known, maybe they're so far along their journey, they can't really understand or empathize with where you're at and speak to you in a way that's going to help you get to where you want to go. I think you should really, because it's so personal when you're getting into coaching, go with the person your intuition's like, that person. Like, I know that's the person. All my clients have said this. Tiffany, from the moment I met you, I knew you were going to be my coach. I know it took me, 3 months, 6 months, a year to work with you. I knew you were going to be my coach. The moment I met you, I felt it. And when you have that feeling, hire the person.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about tax preparers. I just had a call like last week with one of my clients, and she's like, Katey, I'm thinking of switching tax preparers. How should I choose one? Mm-hmm. And I was like, choosing a tax preparer is like choosing a therapist. You need somebody who speaks your language. Yes. You need somebody who understands where you're at and who can communicate with you and who asks a lot of questions and who wants to know what your goals are and how they can get you there. Not someone who's like, give me your books, I'll create a tax return. A computer, exactly a computer can do that.
Exactly the same
If you want
concept.
that, go to TurboTax, right? Like a computer can take your books and pop out a tax return. But you want a tax preparer that's you're going to work with long term, who's going to understand you, who's going to understand your goals, and they're going to take the data and they're going to be like, what's the best thing for you long term? You want this to be a long term relationship. And people don't look at tax preparers that way, but that's an opportunity because it can work with you long term. It can create so many doors for you from a financial perspective to have a good tax preparer.
Yeah. And
I feel like that's like the same thing that you're saying, right?
Same thing with coaching. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a relationship.
Mm-hmm. So many nuggets. And so when you were in Thailand, how were you doing this from Thailand?
So the easiest place to start a business is Thailand, of course, because you're a 12-hour time difference away.
And the people in Thailand, most of them have millions to spend on coaching. So.
Absolutely. Like they have so much disposable income.
Yeah.
That it's really
easy. And they speak English. So.
Exactly right. Yeah. So I did it the hard way. But it was honestly amazing. What I'm really grateful for is everyone knows when you start a business, it's hustle work. And hustle requires some serious self-care. And so the blessing I found in it is, yes, I might be working. My hours were, I would take clients at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and then I would go to the gym, and then I would take clients usually at like 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., or 10 p.m. So
I've also worked from Asia.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'd be working those hours, but it was beautiful. You know, I would wake up first thing. I was that inspired action, right? Wake up first thing, super inspired, ready to work. I'd work a few hours, go to the gym, get a massage, go to the pool, work a few more hours, work all the way to the evening. On the days I didn't have morning calls, I would still be up. I'd be up and sitting at my desk at 6 a.m. Which podcast can I get on? Who can I network with through Facebook groups? Like, who can I meet on the other side of the world as I'm building this brand? And it just, there were days I was so excited what I was doing that I would get into hyperfocus. So ADHD.
I was going to say the ADHD kicked in.
Yeah, that H really kicked in. And there were days, I mean, I had to talk about it with my coach actually, because every day around maybe 4, 5, 6 p.m., I would just get this headache. I'm like, what is going on? Why does my head hurt so bad? I mean, what did I eat today? And I'm scanning my brain. Oh, I didn't eat today. I forgot.
And you could have had like the best watermelon juice in the world, fresh papaya.
See what I'm saying?
Honestly.
But they have the equivalent of Uber Eats over there. So that's the blessing, right? Oh my gosh. She's like, why don't you just delivery? And I was like, that's a great idea.
Brilliant.
I'm getting my coffee delivered. I'm getting all my snacks delivered. To do that, to live that lifestyle in the US would have been probably $4,000 a month for what I was doing. I was getting 5 hours of massages a week, going to the fanciest gym, getting 3 or 4 like Uber Eats deliveries a day. day of all the healthiest, best prepared food, by the way.
Looking at Evan being like, my Uber Eats delivery bill is kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, I'm telling
Even here in the States.
It's a life hack. Every entrepreneur has this like secret that they don't really talk about. I have an entrepreneur friend, $6,000 to $7,000 a month on Uber Eats.
It's like, what do you want to spend your time doing?
Time. It's the time.
Cooking is not what I want to spend my time doing.
It's the time
I'll
thing.
eat. I'll just order the food and I'll keep working.
And it'll be healthy.
Yeah, and what I made working will support my Uber Eats habit.
There we go. There it is. You know what I mean? But to do that in Asia as a beginner when you're on like bootstrapping the business, it was a beautiful thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So in terms of like, if somebody else was starting their coaching business and they were like, okay, I want to get clients for my coaching, where would you recommend that they start?
This is assuming that they've already have coaching certifications. I think a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to get the coaching certifications later. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You start with the certifications. It is a business.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have a physical location, but you should be investing in those. When you know you can get results, when you've already had those practice clients and you've gotten results, then your first clients as a coach are always going to be the people you already know.
Yep.
Always. And it might be people unsuspecting that you didn't know were watching you. Some of my first clients, I did an Instagram story on discipline, the difference between discipline and motivation and how they play into each other. Someone in California saw this, and someone I've never heard of or met before, she didn't know who I was, invited me to speak to her sales team. I got my first 3 clients out of that.
Wow.
And then the clients after that, one was someone I met at a gym here in Miami Beach. Another one was someone I met at a gym in Thailand who was living in Texas. It was all people I know who met in passing, and they were just so impressed by my character and my personality and my story that they were like, you're a coach? Of course I want to learn from you. It was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times the coaching role, the mentor role, you're called to be a role model.
Yeah.
And so you probably already are that before you've gotten the certifications. That's what's going to get you your first clients.
I think what I hear you saying too is like showing up as who you are and being that everywhere. And so there's like a consistency in your integrity. There's a consistency in showing up as who you are. And then people later learn that you're a coach. And they're like, oh, I already thought she was an incredible human. Throw on the fact that she's a certified coach. Like you said, like no brainer, you know?
Exactly.
But if you're showing up as like this shy, not outgoing, not healthy person, and then trying to start a coaching business, not that there's anything wrong with being shy, but like you have to already have done the work and be showing up as the healthy person that you can help people become. Absolutely. Or they're not going to be like, I want that.
Right. You have to be the product of what it is you say that you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the right language.
Same thing. Same thing. Yeah, you have to be the product of, I mean, exactly to your point, shyness. If you're a coach and you're going to help people become more confident and you're showing up shy and you're not showing up on social media and you've never been on stage or spoken in front of people and you're not very outgoing, why should someone trust you to be the person that's going to help them become more confident if you haven't done it for yourself?
Right. Exactly. You have to be the product. I think that's a great line. I love that. So what would you say is like the one thing, kind of wrapping up, for the entrepreneur who's listening to this and you're like, if I gave you one piece of advice you could implement today that would change you, change your business, you know, help you move forward, what would be that kind of one thing?
I would say mind your energy. I think time management is something that's talked about a lot and it's really popular to talk about and look at. But at the end of the day, I find most entrepreneurs have enough time. They just don't have enough energy to use that time appropriately. And maybe your subconscious is repressing emotions and that's where your energy is going. But find where your energy is going. And instead of looking for how do I multiply time, look at how to maximize your energy. You know, look at where your sleep is at. And like we say it in business, what gets measured gets managed.
Yep.
Apply that to every area of your life. I track my sleep metrics. I track my breathing. I track my blood oxygenation. I track my workouts. I track my heart rate variability. I'm tracking, you know, what energy is going into my body so that I can show up my best. Because when I have all the energy in the world, there's no stopping me or there's no telling what I can do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so good. So many nuggets. I hope you got so many nuggets out of this podcast. Well, I'm so grateful that we've been able to have you here, and I'm so grateful for your friendship. I've just loved like all of our time together. I walk away and I'm like, I just love her. She's so awesome.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
This is a great conversation.
So tell people, where can they find you?
So the best way to find me on social media is at Coach Tiffany Taylor. That's on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere.
And she does awesome reels. If you're like, you know, I love what she talked about, but I'm not sure if I'm ready for like the $5,000 a month coaching type thing, like just follow her on Instagram, because I learned so much, and I even know you, and I still learn so much from watching your videos. Like,
I love it.
They add so much value. So yeah, go follow her on Instagram. She has amazing content, amazing videos, always learning. And it's been a great episode. I hope you learned a lot, and we'll see you next time. And remember, today's a great day to start a business. Bye.